May God bless us in reading and hearing of His holy word. This morning I want to look at the book of Haggai with you. Haggai was a prophet from the kingdom of Judah. And like we talked about a little bit before we start reading, Judah is one of the three, the post-exilic prophets, Judah, Zechariah, and Malachi. And although not much is known about prophet Haggai, we can safely assume that he was taken captive or exiled, carried off to Babylon. And around the time this powerful kingdom of Babylon came and destroyed Israel in 586 BC. That was the year when the powerful Babylon came and destroyed the first temple, which was built by King Solomon in Jerusalem. I'm going to look at a quick slide. Maybe it'll work. There we go. So in 586 BC, the first temple built by King Solomon in Jerusalem was completely destroyed by the powerful kingdom Babylon. This was a devastating and life-changing, life-altering, cataclysmic event in the minds of Israelites. Because the temple of God, meant the presence of God to the faithful people of God. It was where the people of God worshiped and had intimate relationship, a fellowship with God. As long as the temple was there and remained standing and tall for Israel, the people of Israel believed that they were safe and shielded and protected from all harms. But then the unthinkable and unexpected happened in the year 586 BC. King Nebuchadnezzar came with full forces, with all his army, and his soldiers completely destroyed the temple of God. They burned it down, as well as all the houses of the most important people, citizens at the time, the leaders. But then the worst was yet to come. The king of Judah at the time was King Zedekiah. King Zedekiah was the king of Judah at the time. But soon King Zedekiah and his sons were captured by Babylonians. All of Zedekiah's sons were killed in front of Zedekiah. And Zedekiah himself, the king of Judah, king of Israel himself, was blinded and taken to Babylon with many others. So all this is recorded in Jeremiah 52. So if you don't mind, please turn your Bibles to Jeremiah 52. So if you go to Jeremiah 52, verse 4, I shall read. I will kind of summarize a little bit. It's rather wordy chapter, but it describes what I captured in a very few words and pictures up there. It's all described here in Jeremiah 52. So in the ninth year of, So in the 9th year of Zedekiah's reign, on the 10th day of the 10th month, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, marched against Jerusalem with his whole army. They encamped outside the city and built siege works all around it. The city, Jerusalem, was kept under siege until the 11th year of King Zedekiah. By the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine in the city had become so severe that there was no food for people to eat. Then the city wall was broken through, and the whole army fled. That's the army of Israel. They left the city at night through the gate between the two walls near the king's garden, though the Babylonians were surrounding the city. They fled toward the Arabah. But the Babylonian army pursued King Zedekiah and overtook him in the plains of Jericho. All his soldiers were separated from him and scattered, and he, Zedekiah, was captured. Zedekiah was taken to the king of Babylon at Riblah in the land of Hamath, where he pronounced sentence on him. There at Riblah, the king of Babylon killed the sons of Zedekiah before his own eyes. He also killed all the officials of Judah. Then he put out Zedekiah's eyes, bound him with bronze shackles, and took him to Babylon, where he put him in prison till the day of his death. On the 10th day of the 5th month, in the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, Nebuzaradan, commander of the imperial guard, who served the king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem. Verse 13, he set fire to the temple of the Lord, the royal palace, and all the houses of Jerusalem. Every important building he burned down. The whole Babylonian army, under the commander of the imperial guard, broke down all the walls around Jerusalem. And look at verses 27 28, same chapter. So Judah, this is the kingdom of Judah, went into captivity away from her land. This is the number of the people Nebuchadnezzar carried into exile. In the 7th year, 3,023 Jews. In the 18th year, 832 people. 30 in his 23rd year. 745 Jews were taken into exile by Nebuzaradan, the commander of the imperial guard. There were 4,600 people exiled into Babylon in all. So a brief history of what happened in 586 BC. And this Babylonian captivity began just like that. Babylon took many of the smart people from Israel. And people like Ezekiel in the Bible, Daniel, were some of those people taken into exile against their will in Babylon. And back in Jerusalem, only the poor peasant people were left behind to work the vineyards and fields. And that was by design, so that Babylon could continue to reap the harvest done by these poor peasant people. And as all these events were happening, the faithful lost their faith and hope in the God of Israel. It was the worst case scenario. Think about it. For the people of Israel, right? Their temple destroyed, everything burned down, city wall broke down. They took all the leaders from Jerusalem to Babylon. Even their king Zedekiah was blinded, his eyes put out, his sons killed. All the officials were murdered publicly, I'm sure. So then for the people of Israel, only one logical question remained. Where is God? How could a loving, a merciful, compassionate God possibly allow such disaster to happen to his own covenant people? Now we fast forward to year 538 BC, when something miraculous happened. By the time the Persian Empire came along, who took over Babylon, King Cyrus took charge of the entire region. And miraculously, unexpectedly, God moved the heart of Cyrus to free the people of Israel. Not only that, Cyrus himself actually encouraged the people of Israel to, you guys go back to Jerusalem. And you guys, Jewish people, people of Israel, rebuild the temple of God. And among the leaders who were encouraged to go back to Jerusalem, Israel, from the exile were, we read about them today, Zerubbabel, the governor, and Joshua, the high priest. And Haggai also returned to Jerusalem as well. And in 536 BC, about 2 years after they were returned from Babylon to Jerusalem, the Israelites organized and started to rebuild the temple, which was burned down, like we read before. But soon, a political opposition arose, from neighbors and indifferent and faithless Jews who lost their faith and hope, caused the work, this rebuilding project, to be stopped. Both from a political, but more importantly, a spiritual perspective, the people of Israel were not ready to take on this kind of huge project or this work of God to be done among them. Just like any other people, any other times, there were people who did not agree with this kind of project because maybe it simply cost too much money. Maybe some people didn't like the design of the new temple, and so on. Lots of complaints, lots of whining, I'm sure. There are always skeptics about any work, and I'm sure it was no different back then in Jerusalem as well. Now, I sketched all this because I want to give you a context of our passage this morning. In the second year of King Darius, he is the third king, grandson, if you will, after King Cyrus. The word of the Lord came through the prophet Haggai in verses 2 to 4. Let's look at it one more time. Speak to Zerubbabel, the governor, and to Joshua, the high priest, and to the remnant of the people. Ask them, who of you saw this house in its former glory? Does it not seem to you like nothing? But now it's important. But now, be strong, Zerubbabel. Be strong, Joshua, the high priest. Be strong, all you people of the land, for I am with you. This is what I covenanted with you when you came out of Egypt, and my spirit remains among you. Do not fear. And my spirit remains among you. Do not fear. As you are all well aware by now, this coronavirus, this COVID-19 situation across all America and all around the world is getting dire. It's getting pretty bad day by day. It's truly an unprecedented and unexpected situation that nobody has wanted to happen in our lives. And it goes without saying that every community in all parts of the world is living in a fear of the unknown. The unknown is that what is the potential full impact of this new virus. This lethal virus has infected and sickened many, many people. And compared to last week, there have been a lot more people infected and suffering and who have died. And with more tests confirming positive test cases. And these are real people with families, right? There are more tests confirming more positive test cases every day. Several states have now told people to lock down or to hunker down, shelter in place, so that we can all minimize the further spread of this virus as much as possible. And many experts are saying that this whole situation is only going to get worse for a while before it gets better. And it wouldn't surprise me, I'm not a medical expert or any expert in this area, but it wouldn't surprise me that this getting worse part lasts for several more weeks, if not months, given the current trend in the United States. And just like the Israelites who saw its former glory, the first temple burned down to the ground. People in America and all around the world are asking the same question. Where is God? How can a good, compassionate, loving God allow such calamity to happen in the world? What is God doing about this disaster? How long, O Lord, do we have to wait until we see you healing and restoring the sick and the dying? More than ever, these are not just theological or theoretical questions anymore. These are real, truth-seeking, and God-centered questions. And as Christians like you and me, we need real answers to such real questions in these challenging times. And for that, we look to the words of God spoken through Haggai once again, who said, "Be strong, all you people of the land, for I am with you. This is what I covenanted with you when you came out of Egypt, and my spirit remains among you. So do not fear." Be strong, not because we've got the best knowledge or best technology or best medicine against whatever the virus. In fact, if anything, we have learned as humanity that our best knowledge, our best technology, and our best medicine alone are not good enough to prevent or to defeat this infectious disease. So we are humbled by what's happening all across all disciplines. Instead, we are strong because God is with us. The same God who had covenanted with the people of Israel when they came out of Egypt. The same God who allowed Babylon to attack and destroy and burn down his own temple, his own house in Jerusalem. The same God who allowed Nebuchadnezzar to exile many Israelites to Babylon. The same God who moved the heart of Cyrus to return his own covenant people to Jerusalem. And the same God who told Zerubbabel, Joshua, Haggai, and all the people of the land to be strong and rebuild the temple of God is our God today and tomorrow and forever. And this same God is telling us and telling the world to be strong, for he is with us, and he has not left us alone. And this same God is telling the world that his spirit remains among them. Therefore, do not fear. I believe none of us have experienced anything like this before. It's truly extraordinary, scary, and tragic all at the same time. The scary part is that we don't know how this virus moves and infecting many people. So we're doing our best to practice what I talked about before, social distancing and self-quarantine and isolation at homes and the like. These are all good things. And if not already, we should go ahead and actively support and participate in these guidelines and practices. And I'm sure you already are doing all of that, no doubt. Because every life matters, no matter who they are. Life matters. And this particular virus is scary because we don't know how this moves. And when someone has this virus or not, with no symptoms, and it still can be infectious. And yet, we do know something else. We know something else for sure. We know that the God that created the heavens and the earth in the very beginning, the God we worship together every Sunday, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the God who so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, is all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-governing and all sovereign and all present God. And we serve and worship that God. We also know that His Spirit remains among us. And He has not left us alone in this dire and difficult situation. So we are confident and also hopeful that He will do His work in healing, restoring, and saving His people in His own time. It might take a little while, but until then, we keep on hoping and praying for His work to be done. And until then, we remain strong. Until then, we do not fear, but keep on praying for the work of God to be done in our city, in our state, in our country, and in all around the world. May God bless each and every one of you and protect you. May God give you His Spirit, and that Spirit may remain in you, among you, and among our community, our country, and around the world. And may God have mercy and grace on all these people all around the world. Let us pray.